Any longtime gamer can relate to playing a title you couldn't beat as a child. As I've gotten older, I've returned to those games that eluded me in my youth, and I'm happy to say I've completed most of them. I may not have accomplished the most common aspirations of adulthood, like owning property or developing a lasting, loving relationship, but goddammit, finishing Dead Rising and Kingdom Hearts is just as good. That said, there are still a few of my childhood favorites I've never managed to beat. One of them was Star Wars Bounty Hunter, a title developed by the sorely missed Lucasfilms game studio. I even tried beating this as an adult 2 years ago via the PS4 port and found myself stuck on Chapter 5. Feeling defeated and impotent, I left the game behind for later conquests. That was until I was forced to return to the fray when a remaster was announced for Xbox Series X, PS5, Switch, and PC. I was nervous about returning to this title, and my anxiety only worsened when I realized Aspyr was handling this remaster. You know, the same Aspyr responsible for the Battlefront remaster?
No. Wait.
Regardless of their past work, I felt obligated to give this one a go. Despite the game kicking my ass as a child and an adult, I was excited to play this again. Star Wars Bounty Hunter felt like the precursor to that Prey 2 game we never got, roaming around large levels, collecting bounties for scandalous rewards. What's not to like? Some subtle changes were even made to the remaster, so I'll have more to talk about than what was seen in the original release. Let's see how much good there really is by diving into this one. How's the story?
Well done, Django. Miko's bounty, courtesy of the Correctional Authority.
You're short, Ross. Not trying to swindle me, are you?
Hey, you're forgetting my finder's fee.
The game's narrative takes place shortly before the events of the second Star Wars film and the prequel trilogy. We play as Jango Fett, the badass bounty hunter with a heart of... Oh, I apologize. This guy not only doesn't have a heart of gold, he's actually a pretty cold motherfucker.
I'll take that off your hands.
How much you offering?
Your life.
Jango is doing his typical bounty hunter thing when he's contacted by Count Dooku, who asks Jango to participate in a bit of competition. You see, there's this cult that's become a bit of a thorn in the side of the Sith, so they have decided to commission a bounty hunter to take this group down. The bounty hunter that accomplishes this task will not only be rewarded with credits, but they will also receive a proposition with massive implications for the rest of the galaxy. Not one to pass up the opportunity for a payday, Jango agrees to take on the challenge. The narrative isn't exactly complex, but it's a fun romp through familiar Star Wars locations. Along the way, players will encounter familiar characters from the Star Wars films, and some welcome new additions. I enjoyed that the writers stayed true to the character of Jango Fett. This isn't an anti-hero story. Jango does not give a shit about a moral code. He's only interested in getting paid. Sure, he does have a soft spot for his partner in crime, Roz, but how can you not with that face?
She's got nothing on you, Ross.
Experiencing a story where the main character is this chaotic is really fun. After finishing this game, I had a new appreciation for Jango and his apathetic demeanor. Most Star Wars games have you playing a morally sound Jedi that, to be honest, is a bit boring. But that's not the case with Bounty Hunter. The narrative doesn't introduce a ton of new lore, but what it does introduce is interesting to be sure. You know what's not interesting though? The game's antagonists. There are two that players will have to combat, and they have the personality of an aggressive Walmart greeter. Both these characters only exist so Jango has someone to fight. I'll give Montrose a pass because his relationship with Jango is intriguing enough that I wanted to dig into what happened between them. But Bosa might as well not even be in the game. She only becomes a significant character at the end, and that's only because she straddles Jango for some fan service.
Who hired you?
Oh, step on me, mommy.
I may not love the villains, but the narrative was enjoyable enough. Let's see if the same can be said for the gameplay. Star Wars Bounty Hunter can best be described as an action 3D platformer. The game has 6 chapters that will take the average player about 8 hours to complete. On the way, they will be allowed to collect bounties, pick up a large arsenal of weapons, and fly around admittedly dated levels while combating various enemies. I'd like to mention the bounty system because it's a mechanic that makes this game stand out. Plenty of NPCs are inhabiting the world as the players go through each level. Some are hostiles and others just exist, but that doesn't mean they can avoid answering for their crimes. The bounty hunter mechanic requires you to scan NPCs to see if they have a bounty on their head. If they do, you will be given a brief description of what they have done to deserve this bounty, and a price will be listed for their capture, dead or alive. These descriptions show a range of crimes that may be as benign as running away from the Hutt slave trade, or something more lascivious, like nerf herding.
You sick fuck.
Once you've determined if you will collect the target dead or alive, you can capture them for credits that are used for bonus unlocks. A nice addition to the remaster is time will slow when scanning for bounties. The original release didn't have this feature, so if you wanted to scan for a bounty during a shootout, you just had to manage that task while taking blaster fire. And let me tell you, it was nothing short of bullshit. Speaking of shootouts, the game gives Django a lot of toys to play with. There's a flamethrower, sniper, grenade launcher, and many more the players will get to use, but nothing beats the starting dual blasters. That brings me to another change that Aspyr made to the remaster. The original game mapped the attacks to one of the controller's buttons, but now they are mapped to the triggers. You can select legacy controls in the main menu if you want, but the new control scheme allows you to go into every combat encounter, slamming the triggers with the same energy Roseanne bar flicks her beam, aggressively and with reckless abandon. Seriously, I would prop my controller on my chest and slap my hand into the back of that gamepad until every living thing in the room was dead. Now I want to point out that this makes the game much easier than before, but I don't care considering there's still a decent number of challenges remaining, especially when considering the limited lives that players are allotted for each level. You're given 5 lives to complete a mission. There are checkpoints that can be picked up along the way, but if you die 5 times, those checkpoints become null and void, because after that you're getting sent back to the beginning of the level. The remaster may be a little bit easier with these modern controls, but you'll be white-knuckling your controller if you're combating a boss with only 1 life left to complete the mission. Although, it's all the more satisfying if you manage to finish it under that kind of pressure. Some encounters were so intense I heard Queen playing after a couple of close calls. The gameplay isn't perfect. Even though I love the platforming and its emphasis on using Django's jetpack, I did notice a bit of 6th generation jank. Star Wars Bounty Hunter is a linear experience with only one path to navigate, but even with that being the case, I became confused about where to go. There is no map or marker directing you, so the only confirmation you get to let you know you're going the right way is picking up a checkpoint. I'm not saying that the levels are so complicated that players will spend hours trying to get through them, but there was enough misdirection on my part that I felt that it was worth mentioning here. Something less savory is the optimization issues seen in the game. There is a lock-on ability that works most of the time, but there will be some instances where you feel like the camera is fighting you more than the enemies. Even worse, I encountered some glitches during my playthrough. And even worse than that, Zam blocked the doorway I needed to get through and refused to move out of my way. Due to my inability to remove her from my path, I was forced to restart the level. I was nothing short of furious when this happened. I didn't understand how Django could be so callous to his fellow bounty hunter in Clone Wars, but now I get it.
It was a bounty hunter cog!
That's format progress, you bitch.
The last thing I want to mention on my short list of complaints is the enemy variety late game. The last chapter of the game feels uninspired due to these fucks being the main combatants. The AI for the Bandogora sees them jumping around constantly, making them very difficult to hit. There are so many of them that you'll often find yourself overwhelmed. It was so bad I eventually started flying past them instead of fighting back. Surprisingly, it doesn't matter if you're one of the galaxy's most dangerous bounty hunters when you're getting hit with a conflict akin of the Bunny Avalanche in Ed, Edd and Eddy. This game may be archaic by today's standards, but playing something as simple as platform through the area and shoot all the bad guys was entertaining. I love a video game full of mechanics and complex depth as much as the next guy, but sometimes I just want to turn my brain off and have a good time. The experience can be summed up with this.
I started blasting. Bang!
We have solid gameplay, so can the same be said for the presentation? Did Aspyr touch up the graphics? Do the levels still capture that Star Wars aesthetic despite the simple level design? Only one way to find out. Arguably the best part of this game is its presentation. There is so much creativity that can be seen in this category. I mean, the original developers took the time to create a unique animation for their opening logo. The OG release of Star Wars Bounty Hunter was in 2002, so some modern clarity was desperately needed from the remaster. They not only brought the game's resolution up to modern standards, but also sharpened the textures and added some dynamic lighting that gives brand new players some acceptable eye candy, while not losing that classic look for returning players. Some areas are still a bit dark, but Aspyr added a flashlight that can be used to remedy that minor complaint. The visual upgrades look fantastic during the in-engine and pre-rendered cutscenes as well, and even though the graphics do show their age, especially when it comes to facial animations, they are passable for modern eyes. This is the best of both worlds, but the more impressive part of the presentation is how much was already included with the game's original release. The audio is great with recognizable sound effects and music pulled directly from the prequel films. Jeremy Soule was the composer for this game, and while he did include some classic tracks, he was also allowed to make some of his own themes that fit seamlessly in the Star Wars universe. I had to double check to make sure all these tracks weren't pulled directly from the films, because they felt so much like what John Williams did while working on the series. Am I saying Jeremy Soule is as good as John Williams? Of course not. John Williams is a once-in-a-generation talent. But I must give it up to Jeremy, because he emulated the master's style quite well. The voice performances in the game are also on par with cinema-level quality, mainly due to Tamora Morrison reprising his role. Some people are born to embody a performance, and Morrison is one of those people. He's become synonymous with his portrayal at the feds, and I would have found it to be blasphemous if they got anyone else to voice the bounty hunter. The guy is just a badass with his line delivery.
Release the senator, or we will open fire!
Do what he says, bounty hunter.
Release him, now!
As you wish.
No, wait!
The level design for the game may be basic, but the developers did a good job making use of the time's hardware when it comes to the scenery. Every area bleeds the look of Star Wars, and I'm sure that wasn't an easy task to complete in 2002. Players get to navigate the cities of Coruscant, the slums of Tatooine, and many more locations that will make your inner nerd feel giddy. At least I can say I was giddy when going through some of these locations. And if the locations don't get your juices flowing, maybe fan service like the origins of Fett's iconic ship will.
Hey, did you name that new ship of yours yet?
She's called Slave One.
There's kind of a ruthless ring to it. Well, fits your personality.
Regarding fun fan service, it's time to discuss the bonus content in this game. Collecting bounties and finding the secret feathers will unlock concept art, playing cards, an important prequel comic, and my favorite, the outtakes. The original developers of this game took the time to animate full-fledged bloopers. That is effort and character that is seldom seen in modern games. These clips are funny as hell, and I've never seen something like this in any other title.
I'll close the... Oh, I was going to ask you one thing. Can I do a little physical as if I'm shutting them?
Oh, yeah.
I'll close the hangar. I'll close the... Where is it? I'll close the hangar blast doors. That should hold them for a little while.
Lastly, Aspyr took the opportunity of this remaster to add something that was supposed to be included in the original release of the game. I'm of course referring to the Boba Fett skin players can get after completing the game. This addition is a payoff for players who have been a fan of this title for 20 years. Content like this is the kind of stuff that remasters should be adding. Don't change what makes the game great. Look at what was supposed to be in the initial release that the original developers didn't have time to add. Then put it in your remaster to enhance the vision. Of course I want to play through the game again as Boba Fett. And now that we have this remaster, I can.
Well done.
Aspyr crushed this, so much that it had me scratching my head about why the Battlefront remaster was so terrible. It makes me wonder if the release of that title was marred by corporate meddling, as opposed to ground-level employees. If you asked me which one of these games would have had the better remaster before their release, I'd have to assume that Battlefront would have the higher level of quality. Bounty Hunter is a cult classic, especially when you compare it to the cultural significance of the Battlefront games. So what happened there? Did corporate put the screws to the dev team while they were developing the remaster for the iconic classic? Was Daddy CEO whispering in their ears like Palpatine?
You need to steal content from modders and release with too few servers. The spreadsheet delivered by the accounting department says we'll make a profit. Search your feelings, you know it to be true.
I don't know, but Aspyr didn't miss the dunk with Bounty Hunter. I had a blast revisiting this title, and the life that has been breathed into it brings me so much joy. After all, the game's no good to me dead. Please pick this one up if it piqued your interest. It's only a $20 purchase. That's it for me. And as always, thank you for your time.